Recently, in the comments on one of these videos, I had an experience the like of which most atheists will identify with. First, I satired a common piece of believers' rhetoric. Then a believer started making all manner of allegations to me about why I'm an atheist. I responded by asking what evidence he had examined and what reasoning he had carried out, which had led him to suppose that he knew me so well. He responded with more rhetoric. Eventually, he criticized me for being evasive by getting out of it with a question every time his logic beat mine. I explained that not only had his logic failed to beat mine, but that it had yet to make an appearance. Arguing simply by making a litany of claims, simply by insisting that this is so, and that is so, and the other is so, is not logic. It's rhetoric. Logic is a tool for drawing conclusions from premises. Premises and conclusions are the two most fundamental concepts of logic. You can't have logic without them. That being the case, even the shortest book on the subject is bound to explain these concepts in the first 2 chapters. Since none of the comments this character had made so far had either premises or conclusions, I could only conclude that this fellow had no idea what premises and conclusions are, which led me to conclude that he had yet to read even a single book on the subject of logic. He had no idea what logic is, or he would not have applied this particular label to any of his comments. But logic is really not that difficult to understand. A lot of us use it without realizing that this is what we are using. If you are visiting a different country where the main language was something with which you were completely unfamiliar, and you notice several natives referring to several of the same kind of object with the same word, logic would lead you to conclude that this word is the name for that kind of object. If, on the other hand, they were using an unfamiliar word to refer to several different kinds of objects that all happen to be the same color, then logic would lead you to conclude that this word is probably the name of the color. Simple. So I set to work composing this little instructional module in the hope of introducing the average believer to this subject to the end of mitigating the recurrence of such a breakdown in reasoning and communication. Logic is simply a tool for drawing conclusions from premises. Premises and conclusions are the 2 different types of propositions. A proposition is something which can be true or false. That's it. That's the definition, and that's really all there is to it. McDonald's sells fries. That's an example of a proposition. McDonald's sells shrimp. That's another. One is true and the other is false, but both are propositions. Logic does not concern itself with whether a proposition is true or false, only with whether it can be. Is true or false an important consideration? Sure, just not a consideration of logic. McDonald's fries are great is not an example of a proposition. There is no way such a thing can be true or false. The same holds true about McDonald's fries are terrible. Opinions are not propositions. There is no way for something to be either wonderful or terrible without a person there to hold that opinion. Holy crap also doesn't count, because exclamations are not propositions either. Premises are propositions which support. Conclusions are propositions which are supported. In other words, premises form the bases for conclusions. All A's are B's. All B's are C's. Therefore, all A's are C's. Asunción is in Paraguay. Paraguay is in South America. Therefore, Asunción is in South America. 8 is greater than 7. 9 is greater than 8. Therefore, 9 must be greater than 7. Now, in this last case, you undoubtedly already knew that 9 was greater than 7. But if you didn't, you could figure it out from these premises. You see, it's really not so hard to understand. But logic is a tool, so understanding it is really not enough. If you want to be good at establishing this, that, or the other point, you have to practice using this tool. Having explained all this, I feel the need to clarify that there is a difference between a logical conclusion and a correct conclusion. Usually any conclusion which is one will be both, but they're not the same thing. A correct conclusion is a conclusion coinciding with fact. A logical conclusion is just a conclusion supported by the available premises. Logic concerns itself only with whether the given conclusions are supported by the given premises. If one or more of the given premises are in error, but the given conclusions are supported by them, and therefore logical, then the given conclusions will be in error as well. Manchuria is in Thailand. Flight 74 has landed in Manchuria. Therefore, Flight 74 has landed in Thailand. Logical? Yes. Correct? No. It's highly likely that any given Flight 74s in the world have landed in both Thailand and Manchuria many times in the last few months, but not both in the same act. Why not? Because Manchuria is not in Thailand. Manchuria is actually a pretty good distance from Thailand. Now, if that were to change, if the proper Thai authorities were to decide that a region of their country which happened to contain an operating airport should be named Manchuria, then it would indeed be possible for a flight to land in both in the same act. But until then, this is clearly incorrect. This conclusion, while completely supportive of the given premises, is not correct because one of these premises is not correct. This, however, is an error of fact, specifically of geography, not of logic. Therefore, this conclusion is logical, but not correct. 2 is a prime number. 10 is the square root of 100. Therefore, 9 must be greater than 7. Logical? No. Correct? Yes. This conclusion is clearly correct. But the way we, and by we I mean me, the fellow making this video, and you, the people watching it, know that is through sources other than this particular argument. Therefore, this conclusion is correct, but not logical. So you can see the difference between a factual error and a logical error. So given the ease with which concepts like proposition, premise, and conclusion are understood, it's really not that hard to establish at least a rudimentary beginning understanding of the subject of logic. Believers, I urge you to take this to heart. Now, before I wrap this up, let me address an argument that no doubt someone is bound to make. Logic is a pale human construct. God transcends it. Oh, well, in that case, I know that God does not exist because he came to me in a dream and told me so. And who are you to question God? What are you talking about? How could he come to you in a dream if he doesn't exist? Well, now you just used logic, which I'm told is a pale human construct which God transcends.